Hi, I'm Natalie of So Hungry Hippie, and today I'm going to take you through the Style Arc Lounge Pant. This is a pattern we had in the store for a while. Right now it's sold out, but I'm going to sew mine on this recorded video so you can sew with me in case you bought it and you're struggling, okay? I will be making mine out of flannel, and I'll be using a black serger thread just so you can see it show up when I'm sewing. When I move to the sewing machine, I'll just keep my Gutermann thread in there that I already have threaded for me to save some time. Okay, so the most important thing is that you cut out your pattern pieces. And I'm going to take you overhead. So here is the pant cuff. You want to cut 2 main, which I've done. This is the waistband. You only need 1. And let's see here. I'm looking for any cut on the fold pieces. Doesn't look like it. So you just need 1 piece of those. When you're cutting your pant, you want to fold your fabric so that you're cutting 2 pieces that are reversed. So if this plaid, the trouble with the flannel plaid is it looks good on both sides. I don't know if that's trouble, but it'll be harder to notice that I've cut 2 reverse here. If I had a quilting cotton, I fold it so that when I'm cutting the pant pattern out, one is up here, right side out, one is down here, right side out. So I just cut it 1 time. I fold, you know what, this is too hard to explain. Let me get out some quilting cotton so I can show you better what I am talking about. So this obviously has a right and a wrong side. It's very obvious, right? Okay, so when I'm cutting out a pant pattern, I'm going to just keep it like this, folded, and then lay the pattern piece on top and cut. And because it's folded this way, I'll have 2 reverse pieces. Now, some people like to fold the fabric so the right sides are together and they're looking at the outside of the wrong side of the fabric when they're cutting out pattern pieces. It doesn't matter as long as at the end of it you have 2 reverse pieces like this. You don't want to cut it so you have 2 pieces like this. Okay, so that's why I cut pant pieces at 1 time. I don't try to lay my fabric flat and cut out 4 different pieces for these 2 pant legs, or I'll mess it up. Okay, so that leg was the back leg, and I did the same thing for the front leg. I'm not going to worry too much right now about cutting out the elastic or drawstring or the piping or all of that stuff. I am going to just use commercial piping. It's probably not the best color for this flannel, but I don't care. I just want to show you the technique. And these will be mine, so who cares? I'm going to wear these at home. Okay, so then once you've got all this cut out, just go ahead, clean up your area, cut out the instructions and the cover so that you can keep that. And here are more instructions in case you want to jot down any notes as we go along, so the next time you go to make this, you can do it with ease and you don't even need to watch a video. All right, so let's see, what is first? I'm going to move this. My iron is plugged in, by the way. I just use it on full heat. I will be using my serger and my sewing machine for various parts. You can sew the whole thing with your sewing machine. What I want you to do is cut out your pattern pieces with pinking shears. Those are the ones that are jaggedy edged. We carry the Kai brand in the shop if you need any. They're excellent. But that way the flannel is less likely to fray after washing. And you don't have to do like French seams and all this other stuff that's kind of tedious if this is your first pair of pants. The other thing you can do is once the seams are sewn, Well, no, listen, do this. Cut it out with pinking shears and then sew it together on your sewing machine with a zigzag stitch. And that way you're good. It's not a perfect solution, but it works. I have many garments that I still wear where I did that in the past because I didn't have a serger, and they're still going. Lots of life in them, so don't let machinery stop you too much, okay? All right, let's get on to the first step with this. Let me find where I'm at here. Okay, construction. We're going to start with the pocket. So where did I put my pocket piece? Did I end up losing that? This is the pant piece. I'm just going to lay these over here on the floor to get them. Oh, look, this one I didn't really cut out. Did I? I kind of did. Well, let me finish cutting this one out because we want this right. And you can use pins or clips to hold your layers in place. Totally up to you. I like to use my rotary cutter since I know I'll be serging. And these are not tailored slacks or anything, so you don't have to worry about being microscopically precise. Please just get this project done and build your confidence. And, you know, honestly, I'm not into making things that are super tailored and structured to my body. I like the look of it, but I don't want to wear it. It's not comfortable to me. So anything you're going to make with me is going to be a little bit loose and flowy, and that adds to the fact that you don't have to be a perfectionist. Don't let that perfectionist stuff get to you. I'm going to grab my acrylic ruler. When I'm cutting long, straight pieces like the waistband, I just bring in my acrylic ruler to help me out. It's too hard to use scissors for me to get a straight edge. Now I'm going to flip it because it looks like I cut this on the fold over here, probably just to save time. We only need one piece, so one of these pieces will be just in case I need it. Oops, that one I didn't. Okay. So until I need these pieces, I just set them wherever. Today it's going to be over here on this floor. If somebody's screaming, sorry. Not sorry. Here's my pant cuff. I don't think I cut my pocket. I guess I'm missing that pattern piece. Wow. And this is why you don't cut 3 months ahead of time. And then try to find your pieces. Well, let's cut a new pocket. I don't have the pattern piece, so I'm just going to go on what Style Arc usually uses for their pocket pieces. Give me 1 sec. Now it looks like we have a top piece and then the pocket body, I guess you would say. You know, I think it's easier just to cut all one piece, but I know you're probably wanting me to stick to this, aren't you? So let's do as the instructions say. 1 second. Let me get this cut out. Okay, let's start with this. If you think of how a pocket usually looks on your derriere, that's what I'm going on, okay? So here we go. Got my iron on. I'm going to have to press this top piece She talks about putting a piece of bias or piping in here, so let's do that. So let's see, I'm going to sew on my piping like that. And let me sew that on with the machine before we move forward. The top part we're just going to fold. If you see, this doesn't really matter how I fold it, but let's fold it and give that a press as well. If you caught my piping tutorial 2 Sundays ago, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just sewing on the piping. Super simple, you can do it. And then we're going to take that piece that we just ironed or pressed, whatever you want to call it. It's technically a press. Okay, so now we're going to sew the top portion of the pocket on so that when we flip it up, it's like this. Okay, I'm just going to trim this down a little bit because it's a little bit large for my personal taste. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to, maybe I should use pins or clips to hold it in place. That'd be the responsible thing to do. Let's do that. Okay, here I go over to the machine. Here we are. And I just sewed in this piping. Okay? Now I did a top stitch just because I like the look of that, but that's the pocket. Okay, I'll trim off the excess here in just a second. Let me take this over here. All right, so there's our pocket. Okay, let's do the pocket. This part in the instructions is super confusing, so let me just walk you through it really quick. I'm going to take you overhead. So I've already gone a little bit ahead. I thought I was recording. So let me just see if I can take this off really quick because this part really had me stumped for a moment. And it's ridiculous because it's an easy step. It just needs to be worded a little better. So first up, you're going to lay your piping so that the piping is down here and the raw edges are meeting, and sew that. So let's pretend I just sewed that on. There it is. Here's the pocket top. You can choose to interface it if you want. This is flannel. I'm not going to. So I'm going to take, first of all, I really need to use pinking shears on one edge of this, and mine have migrated somewhere, and I'm not going to waste time looking for them. But pretend one at this edge is pinked because it matters later. We don't want to have to treat that edge. So I'm going to lay this on top of this and sew it down. Okay? If you need to flip it over to see where you previously sewed, go ahead and do that. I'm hoping I got close enough. Yeah, that's close enough for me. I'm good. Okay. Now bring it back to the work surface, and this is the part that's so confusing. You're folding it in half this way back to the front. So that's why we want this edge to be pinked. Okay, and then we're just going to take a sew here and a sew here, little smaller seam allowance. She calls it 1 centimeter in the pattern, and then we're going to flip it. So let me show you that again. Here's the pocket body, the pocket top. Here's a fold line. You're folding it at that fold line over. If you want to give that a press, you can. Pins are great. I'm going to go ahead and sew this. So I'm going to do some here. And now some on this side. And then I'm going to bring it back over. And I'm going to trim seam allowance out and reduce the corners as much as I can. And then flip this. Back to, here's the front, okay? And see how the sides are naturally wanting to turn under now? Oh, and by the way, take your point and press tool and push out those corners really nicely. There you go. Now, this is the back side. You can pink these edges if it's bothering you as well. I'm going to press this down. I'm going to press this down with my iron, and then I'm going to press up the bottom just a smidge. And then we'll sew this to the back pant on the right side. You want to, at least that's what the instructions call for. So let me press this down. You can also do a stitch in the ditch if you want to hold that pocket. I'm going to do that with you. I just wanted to get the pressing here out of the way. It can be a little flimsy. If you see the term sink stitch, that's what they're saying. They're stitching in the ditch. I almost said stitching in the ditching. Okay, so here's my pocket. And now I'm just going to sew on the back here so that that is down. And I actually sew it from the front so that I know it looks good. Let me take you to the machine. There it is. So my pocket is ready. Now I just have to, the reason we don't sew these sides and bottoms yet is because these get sewn down when we attach the pocket to the pant. So let's pull out that back pant and make sure we're on the correct side. Pocket on right, back only. So that'll be this one. And I usually just take my pattern piece and lay it on here again. And ideally you would make little markings on all the way through the paper and to the fabric below. Let's see, I don't even remember what size I cut out here. So mine is, looks like mine's green. And this is what I'm going to do. Let's see if I'm close. Yeah, I am. That's luck. So now to pin this to the pant, that seam allowance goes under. My pocket is a little bit skinnier. Remember, I lost my pattern piece, so I was just kind of winging the size of it. It's probably about 1/2 inch skinnier than the pattern piece that she uses. So don't worry if yours isn't looking exactly like mine. I'm going to pin this. You know, another thing you could do is some Biani tape here, and you don't have to use so many pins. Just saying. Do what you like best. I want to try and push that guy under a little bit. Okay, let's sew him down. Doot, 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 doot. So I'll just start here, go around and up, okay? Do back stitch here. If you use the pocket, that's where it's most stressed. Don't sew over your pins, please. I'm pivoting, lifting my foot, leaving my needle down. And we're going to lift the foot, leave the needle down, pivot. Yeah, I can feel I've got a little bit of a thickness there with my piping. I'm going to go back and forth here several times. And the pocket is on. That'll fit my phone. Kind of like it. So just trim your threads before we move forward. And we'll go to the next step. Okay, the hardest part is done. The pocket was the hardest part well, maybe the waistband is the hardest part. But right now we're going to sew some pant legs together. So you're going to take one front piece and one back piece and sew them down the side seam together, and then repeat for the other legs. So let me line these up. I'm going to take one, I'll take you overhead. Here's one back leg. You lay it like this so you can see everything. Okay, there's one back leg. Here is a front leg, right sides together. Remember with this flannel, it's a little hard to see that I'm right sides together. And we're going to sew right down this side. So I'm going to use a couple of pins to make sure things don't shift on me as I'm sewing. Now, I'm going to serge this, okay? But you don't have to. Remember, if you cut this out with pinking shears, you're fine. You can use your sewing machine. If you've never seen a serger in the works, it can be kind of fun. So I'm going to use it because I know myself and I won't go back and pink these seams, and then I'll have a real hot mess in my washing machine when I sew these, or when I wash these. So let's go. Let me see if I can take you over the shoulder on this one. Yeah, that works. Always take out your pins or pull them back when you're serging because it's really bad. You've got a blade in here cutting at the same time. Let me turn this a little. I'm way too turned. In fact, I should have my tomato right here so you can see that I'm not sewing over those. Now with the serger, I have to pull it out like that, and then I trim. I take my scissors and trim. You don't want tension on that thread at all. So here we are. Here's one. Now I'm going to repeat that same thing with the other two legs. So, oops, I made two pockets. Okay, so here's the back leg. You can tell which one is the back if you forgot to mark it because it has a deep curve for that crotch area. It's a really deeper curve than the front. Okay, so I'm going to lay that on the table, and then I'm going to lay right sides together, front to back, and we're sewing that straight seam all the way down. Take out all your pins. It might be hard to see if you're using a flannel. I always, between steps, I have to clean my area or else it bugs me. Okay, so now we're on, I think we're on step 6 now. With right sides together, so the front and back in leg seams facing. Okay, so we've got 2 sections that look like this. So let's lay it on the table and we're going to fold this. Let me show you. You're going to take this on over and match the inner leg seam here as best you can. And we're going to sew that down for each pant. Okay, so I've got mine placed. Now I just need to do a couple of pins so that I don't lose it. Don't worry if one point is not perfectly matching. Just sew these pants up. It's going to be fine. This one I must have cut off a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's going to be fine. It's within the seam allowance. Just match up those edges as best you can. Again, this is a lounge pant. If you've never made a pant before and you're here with me, hallelujah, congratulations. You just took the hardest step of all, which is starting. Okay, let's take this over to the serger. You're going to sew on your sewing machine if you don't have a serger. You're going to stop before you serge over the pins. Okay, let's do the other one. My seam allowances might look generous to you, and that's okay. It's just, I know that these are not tight fitting, so I don't have to be too anal about it. This is my first time making this pant, and so a lot of times I will cut out a purposely little bit larger size because the worst thing is sewing a piece of clothing and it's too small because there's not much you can do. If it's too big, I can always, take my seams bigger and make it a little more fitted. But why would I for lounge pants, I want them to be loosey-goosey and comfy. So again, one leg is right side out, and we're putting it in the leg that is wrong side out so that the fabrics are right sides together. Just think right sides together and you'll be fine. And then make sure that your deep curves match. So here's the side seam. I'm going to try to match this side seam. And I just try to take it in first. And then I will pin the side seams together. And then this deep curve with this deep curve, these should match. If they don't, it simply means one of your legs needs to have the seam ripped out, and you fold it the other way and re-sew one leg together the correct way. Now, that usually happens if it's hard to see which side is right side out and which side is wrong side out. That's usually when that happens. If your fabric is easy to see the difference between the right and wrong side, then these curves are going to automatically match because you wouldn't sew the pant incorrectly. steps ago. So don't freak out if it happened to you. Sometimes it's happened to me, so it's okay. All right, these curves will be matching now. Now, if you want to first sew it with a sewing machine and then take your second pass with a serger, you could do that. If you don't want to use a serger, pink that raw edge after you've sewn it, and it'll be fine. I'm going to serge mine. Now, I will say I used to sew it first and then serge it because serging is more permanent. It's not permanent, it's just harder to get out. Ooh, sometimes even when I'm serging this, I still have to take a second pass with a sewing machine, just for extra measure. Sometimes this is the seam that will wear out the quickest, and so I'll just give it another pass with a sewing machine. And I'm going to do that right now because I can already see it needs another sew along that curve. It's the seat, so it gets stressed, you know. Right here, I usually take a couple passes. Okay, there we are. So now let's pull our pant right sides out. Oh, Tori, what a nap. So now they're starting to look like pants. There's the back, there's the front. All right, let's go to the next step. So the next step is the waistband. Now, can I just tell you, the drawstring cord is just a look feature. I am not going to mess with it because that means I have to go home and get my eyelet setter tool. You might not have an eyelet setter tool. What a pain. Let's just do an elastic waist, okay? Because that is how the pant functions, is with the elastic waist. It's got nothing to do with the drawstring cord. On this pattern, this is the PJ Lounge pant pattern. So on the next tutorial that I'm going to do, the Anna pant, it is functional. The drawstring is functional. So I'll show you that at that time. Let's take the waistband and bring it so the short sides are together, and we're going to sew or serge across there. I'll sew on this one. Now let's press that seam flat. It'll just be easier to work with, especially when we're inserting the elastic. Press it really good. So we've got our waistband like this. Now what we're going to do is fold it in half like this, all around. A lot of waistbands are constructed this way, so it's a good technique to know because you'll probably run into more patterns that do this. So I'm just going to bring my pressing mat up here. It'll be easier for me to show you this way. I'm going to press it. And I just keep going around. Like this. Okay. Great. So now that's pressed. And then I bring it back to center, the center seam, so I can see that really well. And I press it so I have side creases, because the next step is important that we have those markings. We're going to take our elastic. And I really urge you to cut. I cut an inch or two bigger than my waist, and then I put it on, and then I subtract a little bit from it. And the reason I do that is because every elastic is different, and it feels different on. This elastic that I have, this is designer's choice, and it's nice and soft, so I'm probably going to be okay cutting a couple of inches less wide than my waist. But I'm just going to do it the way I always do it, because there's a reason that I do it that way, right? So I'm going to cut it here and get this out of my way. And then I'm going to bring it here. And you want to sew this with a zigzag stitch. You can either, there's a whole bunch of different ways to sew elastic together, okay? Whatever works for you is fine. You can bring it together and sew it, and then the seam allowances, sew those down. So it will end up looking like this, you know? You can also just overlap it and sew a zigzag stitch. And sew a whole bunch here. Don't be shy about that. Zigzag, 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 whole bunch. What you want to be sure is that you can get the elastic over your hips and that it fits your waist tight enough that when you're wearing your pants, they don't start sinking off, okay? I don't like mine so tight that I can feel them pinching me all day long. Like, who wants that? Some people like that feel. I don't. So I tend to sew mine together like an inch or maybe 2 inches, depending on the elastic, less than my waist width. Now, I don't have my zigzag machine here today, so I'm going to do the dreaded straight stitch on this elastic. It'll end up popping at some point, and I'll just fix it when that time happens. If you use a straight stitch, it will pop at some point. So if you can, please use a zigzag stitch. Okay, so there's my elastic. Now I've got the center, and I've got to mark the sides. Here's my center, because I can see that's where I stitched, and then here's my center back. And that's important when we're sewing it into the waistband. I try to put the seam of the elastic in the back with the seam of the waistband. So I'm going to put it all the way at the top of that fold, and then I like to use pins to hold this in place for the moment. Because when we're sewing this, we're going to have to pull on this a bit. It's kind of a weird thing to have to do, but we have to do it. Now what you want to be careful of is that you're not twisting your elastic. So I'm going to the center back of my waistband and the center of that elastic. And then I'm going to go to the side crease and the side mark on my elastic. Open this up. Push that up into the fold, matching that crease with the marking on my elastic. And you'll notice right now, wait, Natalie, I have a ton more fabric than elastic. Yes, that's normal. Just trust the process. I'll show you as soon as we start sewing. This will feel so awkward. Okay. Now, if this is your first time making a waistband like this, it is going to be a challenge. And that's okay. We can do hard things, remember? And this is how you get better. So I'm going to take it to the machine so that the folded edge is on the left and the raw edges are on the right, because that's what I'm going to be sewing shut first. I'm not sewing in the elastic right now. Or shall I say on the elastic? I suppose you could if you have a zigzag stitch. I suppose you could do that. But this is how I've always made a waistband like this. I did this for the bob pant as well. Now the trick here is we have to pull the elastic. Oop, I gotta set this up so you can see it. We're gonna have to pull this elastic as we're sewing the fabric together. Let's just try to do this without much talking. I pull in the back and I'm pulling down here. When I stop, my needle is down and I come here and I rearrange and make sure that this is up, touching the fold. I go to my next pinned area and I'm really pulling. See how much I'm pulling? And I'm holding it back here as well. I'm going to have to stop when I get up close to this pin. Okay, I got to unpin that. And now I'm going to pull this again. See how much I'm pulling? It's not like a strong, forceful pull, but it's enough to make the fabric match the elastic. And anytime I'm slipping or I need to rearrange, I just stop sewing, grab the next area, take out my pin, go to the next area that I've got pinned, pull, look how much I'm pulling. I'm going to try to do a squat here and sew at the same time. Okay, I'm going to unpin, I'm going to pull. And now this is the last section. I'm almost back to the start here. See, it wasn't bad at all. You can do it. There we are. Back to the start. And there's our beautiful waistband. Isn't that fun? Now, if you want to turn your stitch length way up, like a 4, and do another round, like in the middle of the elastic, you really can. Let me start, let's see, at that back seam. Where'd that go? Right here. I have done this, and I like the look of it, but you gotta really pull. Here we go. Let's do this. I'm just pulling, 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 pulling. Pull from the back, pull from the front. Pull from the back, I'm right in the middle of the elastic. There we are, back to the beginning. And now my elastic will never twist. You know, the dreaded elastic twist. You could do that again if you want to sew another round. Isn't that awesome? It's awesome, and you did it. And if your waistband isn't perfect, listen up. Nobody's going to notice because it's elastic. Look how it gathers. Nobody is going to notice, so don't freak out. Okay? Let's get this elastic band in. Bring your pants over. I'm going to match that seam, if I can see it again. There it is. There's my back seam. You know what I need to do is trim some of these threads away. If you want to come along the bottom of your waistband and pink it, if you're not going to serge it onto your pants, do it. It's fine. There's no race. And now I'm going to match that back. Ooh, this I didn't quite get that top of the seam there. Let me fix this back seam. Oh. Okay. Now we're good. So here, oh, I just lost it again. Do. Where are you, back seam? There you are. See how well hidden stuff is? Pretty cool. Okay, let's match the back seam of the waistband with the back seam of the pant. Raw edges are together here up at the top. And then what I do is I kind of gather my pants up and take it through the waistband so that this part is easier to pin. Make sure that you're not twisting your waistband. We're going to go to the front of the pant and pin. I might have to adjust this a smidge. Oh, why isn't that pin? That must be a dud. Okay, and the side with the side over here. I always do the 4 seams first, and they're not seams on everything necessarily, but front, back, side, side, and then I ease it in for the rest of the circle. Yep. Oh, this is going to be so good. I can't wait to wear these. Use as many pins as you need to. See how I'm going around the waistband and I'm pulling it? Because when I'm sewing this onto the pant, we're going to have to pull again. So see this? I don't want to miss this. I'm going to pull and pin. Pull and match those raw edges and pin. It doesn't have to be pulled tight when you're pinning, but you just don't want to miss the edges when you're sewing. That's the only thing. So here we go again. Let's do this again. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to my serger because I like this edge to be serged. Okay. Are you ready? Take a breath. If you need to take a break, pause. Go take a break. It's okay. All right, let's do this. We've got it. We can do it. If you're coming in with a serger, you kind of have to angle it. Probably looks crazy to the person who's never serged before. Just remember, go slow. Take out your pins. I'm pulling Maybe I should have sewn this first instead of serging. Probably would have been easier. Can you see what I'm doing here? Oh, I probably need to squat. Let me try to do another thigh master squat. See, I'm pulling this down here. I'm pulling it back here just a smidge. It's more just to keep things taut. Here we're coming up to the beginning now. Whew, that was a thigh workout for me, which I'm always up for. Oh, I missed 2 sections, you guys. See, it happens. That's okay. I'm just going to come back in. I'm going to look from the inside this time. It's like 2 little 2-inch sections here. I'm just going to fix this real quick. See, I don't talk to myself badly when this happens. This is part of the process, and it's fine. Okay, that one's fixed. Now, where was that other little piece that I saw? Right here. 1 inch. Ugh. All right, here we go. Just gonna fix that. And if I had sewn that first, that wouldn't have happened. I know better than that. There I go again, being too hungry, trying to speed myself up. And you know what? Faster is not better. Not always. Okay. All right, fixed. Now with serger threads, you're supposed to pull off the threads, tie them, and do a dab of glue. I don't think I've ever done that in my life. Whatever. None of my clothes have come apart. It's like, I mean, yeah, do what you're supposed to do, but for me, this is fine. Oh, look at this. Now, I could just hem the bottoms and be done with this. You can totally do that, and you're fine doing that. But the pattern has that little cuff with piping, so let's put that on. I'm going to put that on. Even though in future pants I probably wouldn't bother. I don't know, maybe I will. It's all mood dependent, if I'm honest. I'm not even going to look at the directions at this point. Let's take those cuff pieces. Oh, isn't that supposed to be 2? I cut it on the fold. All right, let's do our cuffs with the piping. We're just gonna do them both at the same time. So lay out your pieces like this, and then take your piping and you're going to match the raw edges across the top and give yourself a little bit extra protruding off each end. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the Bianni's tape because it's easier for me. Okay, and I'm going to sew that down. Got pins there. You can always pin or use clips to hold the piping on as you sew as well. I see a pin on the floor. I gotta pick it up. Tori Bori. And remember, if you have a piping foot, use it. It'll be so much easier. Okay, so we have sewn the bias or the piping to the edge. Then what you're going to do is take this across and we're going to sew this. But the most important thing here is that your piping is lined up with one another. So I like to stick a pin or two to hold that in place really securely, and then I'll sew across here. Trim away the excess. Turn it right side out. Now what we're going to do is fold this and bring up the raw edges to meet over here and nest that seam there. And it'll just it'll want to do it on its own somewhat. Okay, see that? And I'm going to take some stay stitching and go around there to hold it in place. So that just means that I'm turning up. It's almost like a baste stitch. It is, pretty much. But it's holding this curve in place here, these two edges, these two raw edges. Let's sew it down. That'll help when we're sewing this into the pant. Make sure these are meeting. You can always pin it if you prefer. Ooh, I got that match up really bad right here, but whatever. Do better on the next cuff, hopefully. Here's this one. Yeah, this one is much better. It meets really nicely. Okay, so I've already folded the cuff up. I just like to come in here and make sure that those edges are meeting so that I'm not just thinking I'm sewing both layers and I'm only getting one. Been there, done that. All right, now I'm going to turn this back down because next we're going to sew this to the pant. Now you can use a sewing machine or you can use your serger, but with that piping, I like to use the sewing machine and then I'll come in and pink it or whatever I need to do. Serge it afterwards. Sewing is the safer option with the sewing machine. All right. Let me think about this really quickly, how I'm going to tell you this. Yep. Okay, so she does hers, so the pants are inside out, but I do mine this way. So my pants are right sides out, and I always look for that inside seam because that's the part that people most likely are not going to see very much. The outside seam, they might see more. And then my cuff is, so that's how we just sewed it, turn it. So it's like this. Find that seam and match it to that inside leg seam. So right sides are facing, the piping is in the middle, and we're going to pin it all around. Oh, I see why she did it, because now I got to take my pants through here. That's why she does the pants inside out. That's okay, whatever. All right. Now I'm going around, I'm going to place more pins. Here's this. Now, I remember I had to sew, yeah, my cuff is a little bit big, so that's okay. I just need to take it out. I had made my pant leg a little smaller, and then I forgot to do that adjustment over here. No worries, I'll just do it now. So I need to unpick this a little bit. That's what I love about sewing is even when you like mess up, you can usually fix it if you want to. Doesn't mean you have to or need to, or maybe you don't feel like doing anything in that moment, and that's okay. Put it to the side and come back later. But I like that it's not be all end all. I mean, it's just like, is that the right terminology I'm trying to use? It's something you can adjust and go back and change later. I love that. I'm taking a bigger seam allowance now on my cuff so it'll fit my pant leg opening better. I gotta trim away some of that bulk. Okay, let's see if that was enough, because I sure didn't measure. I think it's going to be close. And, don't sew when you're hungry either, because then you start to get really carefree. Like, meh, 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 good enough. Legs on the wrong side, meh, good enough. Backwards, meh. Or is that just me? Ouch. Okay, I'm coming around the edge of the pant again, just attaching it. I think that's why people don't like sewing circles, is because there's a lot of ease involved, and it's just, you just have to keep doing it. Ooh, Lord. Just have to keep doing it and get better at it. That's how it works. I have got 3 petals under my feet, and it is a lot. Let me just tell you. It's a lot. So now I'm going to take this and sew this onto the pant. And really, you want to get super close to that piping. I can feel it here. I hope I'm doing this right. I really should have marked. Oh, I can see my stitching here. I want to be just on the outside of that or on top of it to make sure that my piping is going to look good at the end. You can always fix it after the fact and go in and do a second pass, but I try not to have to do that. Okay, these pins are going to start poking me in a second. Let me take the pins out. I think I'm going to go around this edge with the serger because it's a little bit fraying. And remember, you can just use pinking shears. That works too. I have so many clothes just with that technique. Oop. Ah! Jeez. Should probably take my shoes off. Oh man, this is... I need to be sitting down for that. Let's hope this looks good. Oh, not too bad. Yeah, that's not too shabby. I could do a little better right there. But I can do that later on my own time. That's kind of cute. I kind of like that little trim effect, the piping. That one I got a little too far away, but no worries. Just fix it later. You get the idea, right? Okay, let's do the second cuff here. You see that? My scissors are magnetic. Cool, eh? All right, where'd that second cuff go? Here it is. Do you remember how to do this? Have I told you lately that I make tutorials for myself too? 'Cause I can't remember 1 minute to the next. Okay. We're turning it. We're going to find that side seam, and we're going to match that inner leg side seam. If you ever want to make sure you're doing it right, just flip it and make sure you can see your piping. And then you know you're doing it right. Okay, so I'm just going to do all the same stuff. Okay, let's sew that. I'm going to start at that inner leg seam, and I'm sewing right on top or just to the outside of the previous stitching where I added the piping. You know, if you didn't want to sew new pants, you could probably practice the piping cuff technique on jammy pants you already have. That might be fun. We're done. You're gonna pink or serge or whatever you need to do to treat that cuff. That one's better. Second time is always better. And there are my pants. My jammy lounge pants. I'll take you overhead. I think I will. Here's the back pocket. Oh, look, I put it on the left leg. That is so like me. The pattern said put it on the right side. I put it on the left. Dang it. And there's the pants, which I'm going to press that, make that look a little better. But that waistband looks comfy. Doesn't look like it's pinchy. I got to come in here and trim some threads out I'm seeing right now. You'll always catch that later. Trim them out. You'll be happy. There they are. Yay. Now look, I did not get bent up about matching these stripes. You can totally do that. But on your first time, just be easy on yourself. Nobody's looking at you that hard. They're not going to notice. Only you're going to notice. And I'm not advocating for sloppy. I'm advocating for getting the work done, especially the first time. And then, you know, my second pair, if I'm going to do stripy flannel, plaid, or whatever you want to call this, I will pay attention to how I sew these together and make them match. Look, this one matched. Why didn't these two? Well, I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, in that moment. It's okay. I'm going to wear these. I am totally going to wear these tonight, and I'll take a picture. And you know what? I will see you soon. Peace, love, sewing. Thanks for being here.